All right. Let's see, we're on Facebook. Back to Zoom. And I think we are ready to go. Waiting a few more people to join us. Let me put on my video. Okay, here I am, gang. Okay. So, actually, let me put my camera up at a different angle. Better to see you with. Oops. All right. Ready to go. All right, so we're going to chant Jai Radhamadhava first. No dancing tonight. The dancer is on vacation. Okay. Okay, here we go. Whoop, let me turn my phone off so we don't hear. Turn my phone on silence. Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Vihari, Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Vihari, Gopijana Malaba, Jaya Giri Varura, Jaya Madhura. Pichana Palava, Jaya Giri Varura, Jaya Varura, Yasoda Nandana, Rajajana, Danjajana, Ranjana, Yasoda Nandana, Rajajana, Ranjana. Tira Madachari Nayo Kunja Vihari Kunja Vihari Rana Madhova Kunja Vihari Rana Madhova Kunja Vihari Pidana Palava, Jaya Giri Varura, Giri Varura, Pidana Palava, Jaya Giri Varura, Giri Varura, Yasoda Nandana. Jana Ranjana, Yasoda Nandana, Jana Ranjana, Yamuna Tira Madachari Nayo Kunja Vihari Kunja Vihari Yamuna Tira Madachari Kunja Paramahansa Paravatictorial. Also tells Shima, His Divine Grace. Abhaya Chanananda Bhaktivedanta Goswami. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Navadvi Dam Ki Jai. Jagat Sami Ki Jai. Yamunamai Ki Jai. Shrimati Lasa Devi Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol. All glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prastaya, Buddhale, Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani. Namaste Saraswati Devi, Gaura, Vani, Pracharni, Nivashesha, Shunyavadi, Paschatya Deja, Tarni. Somaganatimidandasha Gananjana Shilakaya Chakshurun Meditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So I offer my respectful obeisances under the lotus feet of my spiritual master, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who so kindly opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge while I was blinded in the darkness of ignorance. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So we're going to read from the Caitanya Charitamrta, the fourth chapter of the Adi Lila, talking about the esoteric reasons for the Lord's Advent. And these are very elevated subject matters. I have to preface the discussion with this. So some of you may not be able to understand everything, and I don't think anyone can understand everything. Because Krishna is unlimited, so how can you understand everything about Krishna? Especially the esoteric stuff about Krishna. So, Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Okay. Here we go. We're going to share the screen. And some of you will get an opportunity to read it if you raise your hand in the participant window. Okay, so share. All right. Hold on a second. Clear my screen so I can read it. And let me put the participants up so I can see who's raising their hands. Okay, I will start. All right. Gopastapakyam acharanyaramusharupam lavanyasaram asamordvam ananyasiddham. Let me center this. Drigbi pibanjanusava binavam durapam ekantadama yasashashya aishvarasya. The women of Mathura said, "What austerities must the gopis have performed? With their eyes they always drink the nectar of the form of Lord Krishna, which is the essence of loveliness and is not to be equaled or surpassed. That loveliness is the only abode of beauty, fame, and opulence. It is self-perfect, ever fresh, and extremely rare." So this text is from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 44th chapter, text 14, and it was spoken by the women of Mathura when they saw Krishna and Balaram in the arena with King Kamsa's great wrestlers, Mushtika and Chanura. So, of course, a lot of things happened before that. When Krishna and Balaram entered into Mathura, they tried to get some new clothes from a washerman. The washerman wouldn't give them to them, and so the washerman sort of lost his head, and he had to give up the clothes, even without his head. And then they straightened up Kubja, who was a hunchback, and they arranged that she wasn't a hunchback anymore. So many things happened, and then when the ladies saw Krishna and Balaram, they became overwhelmed with ecstasy because Krishna and Balaram, they are Bhagawan. Bhagawan means full of opulences, wealth, strength, renunciation, beauty, intelligence, and fame. So, who would not become overwhelmed? Even Krishna becomes overwhelmed. That's why Krishna appears as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, so that he can see his overwhelming beauty. Apurva Madhuri Krishnara Apurva Tara Bhal Yahara Shabane Mana Haya Talamal. The sweetness of Lord Krishna is unprecedented, and his strength is also unprecedented. Simply by one's hearing of such beauty, the mind becomes unsteady. Wow. Krishnera Madhurye Krishna Upajaya Loba Samyak Svadite Nare Mani Rahai Kshoba. Lord Krishna's own beauty attracts Lord Krishna himself, but because he cannot fully enjoy it, his mind remains full of sorrow. Eta dvitiya etura hetura kahila vivaran. Tritya hetura eve shunaha lakshan. This is a description of his second desire. Now, please listen as I describe the third. In other words, Krishna is morose because he can't. This is the ultimate egotism, that God can't enjoy his own beauty and opulence from the standpoint of his beloved, and so he's becoming morose. It's unbelievable. And therefore he takes the appearance as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So here's the third reason. Adyanta nigura e rasera sirant, Sarupa Goswami Matra Janera Ekant. And this conclusion of rasa is extremely deep. Only Swarup Damodar knows much about it. Yeva keha anye jane, sahut hanha hoite. Chaitanya Goshnira Tena Adyanta Marma Yate. Anyone else who claims to know it must have heard it from him, for he is the most intimate companion of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Gopiganera Premera Ruda Bhava Nam. Vishuddha Nirmala Prema Kavu Nahe Kam. The love of the gopis is called Rudha Bhava. It is pure and spotless. It is not at any time lust. As already explained, the position of the gopis in their loving dealings with Krishna is transcendental. Their emotion is called Rudha Bhava. Although it is apparently like mundane sex, one should not confuse it with mundane sexual love, for it is pure and unadulterated love of God. In other words, the interactions that the gopis are having with Krishna and Krishna is having with the gopis are all in spiritual bodies made of what? Eternity, bliss, and knowledge. Now, what is a body that's made of eternity, bliss, and knowledge? We cannot understand that in this world. And so interactions based on those bodies we cannot understand either. What we can understand is our own experiences, the interactions based on our bodies. For example, just recently I took prasadam, and I can understand my tongue and how the tongue enjoyed the prasadam, and my nose and how the nose enjoyed the smell. But that's a material body. And what is the tongue? The tongue is simply some mechanism, machine, yantra, as described in Sanskrit. And the tongue's sensations are being transmitted through the nervous system, blood, and everything like that. Blood. And through the brain, and then through whatever, the subtle body, and somehow or other we're thinking, that's me. So the spiritual body interactions are not understandable to us because we tend to project, when we hear about Krishna with the gopis, we tend to project not my experiences, I'm a sannyasi, but we tend to project some experiences that you have had with your own gopis or with your own boyfriend, whatever. So, but it's just take it theoretically, it's something that's so transcendental, something beyond the realm of our experience and understanding. And the only way to really understand it is through revelation. Revelation occurs by cleansing the heart of lust. When one's heart is cleansed of lust, Vishaya Shariya Kavi, Shuddhabhimana Kabihama Rabu Sri Vrindavana, one can actually perceive Vrindavana in these pastimes. So Premaiva Gopa Ramanam Kama Ityagavat Pratam Ityudhavadyu Pietam Vanchati Bhagavat Priyaha. The pure love of the gopis has become celebrated by the name lust. The dear devotees of the Lord, headed by Sri Uddhava, desired to taste that love. This is a verse from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, 1-285. Kama prema donhakara vihina lakshana. Loha ara ema yaiche sarupe vilakshana. Lust and love have different characteristics, just as iron and gold have different natures. One should try to discriminate between sexual love and pure love, for they belong to different categories with a gulf of difference between them. They are as different from one another as iron is from gold. Although they're both metals, and even sometimes you can polish iron if you alloy it with other metals, so it's gold, but it's never gold. Atmendriya priti vansha dhare vale kam. Krishnendriya priti icha dhare prema nam. The desire to gratify one's own senses is kama lust, but the desire to please the senses of Lord Krishna is prema, love. And so those who have pure prema, there is no other desire than that. And so prema comes in different, not prema, but let's see, interaction or love of Krishna comes in different categories, and some of them are mixed and some of them are pure. The revealed scriptures describe pure love as follows. Sarvata dvam sarahitam satyapidvam sakarane yadbhavi bandhanam suprema varikirtitaha. If there is ample reason for the dissolution of a conjugal relationship, and yet such a dissolution does not take place, such a relationship of intimate love is called pure. In other words, as it's stated in the Shikshastika, that Krishna, you may crush me by your embrace, you may leave me brokenhearted by not being present before me, but you're completely free to do anything and everything, and you'll always remain my worshipful Lord unconditionally. The predominated gopis were bound to Krishna in such pure love. For them, there was no question of sexual love based on sense gratification. Their only engagement in life was to see Krishna happy in all respects, regardless of their own personal interests. They dedicated their souls only for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. There was not the slightest tinge of sexual love between the gopis and Krishna. Really important. There's not the slightest tinge. The author of Sri Caitanya Caritamrta asserts with authority that sexual love is a matter of personal sense enjoyment. All the regulative principles in the Vedas pertaining to desires for popularity, fatherhood, wealth, and so on are different phases of sense gratification. Acts of sense gratification may be performed under the cover of public welfare, nationalism, religion, altruism, ethical codes, biblical codes, health directives, fruit of action, bashfulness, tolerance, personal comfort, liberation from material bondage, progress, oh my God, it's all inclusive here, family affection, or fear of social ostracism or legal punishment. But all these categories are subdivisions of one substance, sense gratification. Oh my God. Doesn't leave us much room open for anything else. All such good acts are performed basically for one's own sense gratification. I'm going to a little while. For one can sacrifice his personal interests while discharging these much advertise moral and religious principles, but above all, there is the transcendental stage in which one feels himself to be only an eternal servitor of Krishna, the absolute personality of Godhead. All acts performed in this sense of servitude are called pure love of God because they are performed for the absolute sense gratification of Sri Krishna. However, any act performed for the purpose of enjoying its fruits or results is an act of sense gratification. Such actions are visible sometimes in gross and sometimes in subtle forms. Okay. So I don't want anyone to become discouraged after reading that and just say, well, Krishna consciousness is not for me. Because you hear this expression all the time. That is just sense-gratified. Well, I got news for you. Prabhupada said, we need sense gratification. Oh my God. The body needs some sense gratification. The mind needs some sense gratification. Now, if we're talking about the gopis or Nityasiddha devotees, that's a different category. So let's put them aside. Of course, you shouldn't put them aside, but let's put them aside for the sake of this discussion and talk about sense gratification. So, in order to maintain this body, in order to maintain our sanity, we have certain physical, mental, subtle, gross needs, like beginning with air. I don't like anyone. That's sense gratification here. Breathing, Prabhu. Oh, don't gratify your senses. Stop breathing. Well, if you're a yogi, you can do that. So air, then you get to some water. Don't drink. Don't breathe. I mean, yeah, there's stories about great yogis like Dhruva Maharaj who stopped drinking and eating and everything else. Don't try that at home. So anyway, so we have certain needs, and I'm going to get into an expression that Prabhupada gave in a few seconds, a few minutes. We have certain needs. We have a need for friendship. We have a need. These particular needs, although in one sense you could term them sense gratification, because if they're dovetailed in Krishna's service, they become spiritualized. For example, my breathing, if I'm serving Krishna, becomes spiritualized. So that sense gratification is not detrimental or bad, as they say in the south of the United States, bad. It's not bad. It's good because you need to do it to serve Krishna. And eating, so it was like I described, I ate prasadam, and I was enjoying sense gratification. Oh my God, by eating prasadam. Because I was engaged in Krishna service and eating prasadam, which is offered to Krishna. I remember there was one devotee in South America, very fanatic, and he was advising the other devotees not to eat mangoes. Because he said eating mangoes, even if you offer the mangoes to Krishna, was a fall down. It's like breaking the regulative principles. Can you imagine? I mean, guilt. Talk about guilt. Oh my God. I was brought up in a religion, not Krishna consciousness, that had guilt at its center. God is jealous and angry. And if you don't serve him, you're hurting your mother and father. And if you don't become a doctor also, God will not be pleased with you. God will only be pleased if you follow your mother and father, because it says so in the Ten Commandments. So, anyway, getting back to the point. So we have all these basic needs, which in one sense you can call sense gratification, like food, water, light, air, friends, autonomy, recreation. Yeah, recreation. I remember being at one of our GBC meetings, the Governing Body Commission, where we would, after the meeting, we'd get on our sleds and go down the hill together. Had a, and we had another meeting, and the second one was in India, where we had wrestling matches. It was just the men for this particular one. Wrestling matches, mud wrestling matches in the Ganges. Anyway, I don't want to tell you who won. It wasn't me, that's for sure, because I'm a 90-pound weakling. So you have a need for recreation, you have a need for understanding, you have a need for uh, ultimately self realization. Of course, even the mundane psychologists like Maslow, they've ascertained this. In order to be sane, we need these things. So these are our basic needs. And one sense you could say it's sense gratification. But this sense gratification, when one is Krishna conscious and using it in Krishna's service, using his or her energy, then that sense gratification is spiritualized. So you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to get all guilty. Oh my God, I enjoyed eating. Oh, my spiritual life is finished. Oh, I'm gone. No. I mean, chill out, as they say. You enjoy Krishna consciousness. And so Prabhupada said, in order to be Krishna conscious, one has to approach sense gratification like salt. Of course, that's considering that one doesn't have high blood pressure. Prabhupada said, if you have a vegetable without salt, it's tasteless. Not so nice. And if you have a vegetable with too much salt, it's bad for you. So there's an amount of sense gratification that's necessary. And everyone's amount is different than everyone else's amount. That's right. Just like you may need a nice place to live. And so you have a room or apartment, but you certainly don't need 100-room house for you and your wife. I mean, that's absolutely insane. Just like sometimes, I look at the news and sometimes there's a little blurb at the bottom of CNN or whatever. And it says, look at so and so's mansion, Neverland Ranch. And I mean, you know what place that is. And it's a big thing, millions of dollars, 20 million, whatever it was, millions of dollars. You don't need it. You don't need it. Like Prabhupada would say sometimes, you can only eat so many chapatis. You can have millions of dollars, but the amount of chapatis or slices of bread, if you happen to be in the West, or pizzas that you can eat, are limited. I remember that, reading about the Romans who tried to surpass their capacity for enjoyment, Epicurean enjoyment, eating. And then they would gorge themselves with food. And to enjoy more than their capacity, they would stick a feather in their mouths to cause themselves to, I guess you understand, regurgitate. And then gorge themselves some more, regurgitate some more. I mean, that's crazy. So, one has a quota. And that quota is the amount of sense gratification. And that's in Krishna consciousness is good, Good, not bad. And if someone else has more than you, that's good for them. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. So everybody is given a specific quota, what they basically need. Some people may need to sleep 7 hours or 8 hours a night. Some people may need to sleep 23 and a half hours. No, hopefully not that much. And some people may only need 3 hours a night. But everybody needs to sleep some in the evening. Of course, the Goswamis are Vrindavan, it's a different thing. So we should not decry someone else's facilities. Everybody's different. Whatever we're meant to have, we have. So don't worry about it, and don't take these different statements in the purport out of context. Because it gets really scary here. Acts of sense gratification may be performed under the cover of public welfare, nationalism, God bless America, religion, Hare Krishna. It doesn't mean that every act of public welfare, nationalism, religion, altruism, ethical codes, biblical codes, health directives is Maya or illusion. I mean, I follow the health directives. I'm trying my best to get the vaccine through hook or by crook so I can travel again. So, and bashfulness, what's wrong with bashfulness? I haven't figured out that one yet. Personal comfort, yeah. But not too much, not like the princess and the pea, because you don't know that story. This princess had like 100 mattresses, and because there was one little pea underneath, she couldn't stand it anymore. Liberation from material life, progress, family affection. So love your family. But since you love them, you should know what's best for them. Don't give them something that's going to hurt them. Don't give them a piece of steak, because then you're saying that they will become little moo-moos in the next life. If you don't know what a moo-moo is, that's a cow. It goes moo-moo. And fear of social ostracism. I mean, we want to be respected in society so we can present Krishna consciousness. And certainly we don't want to be punished by the law. So it just depends on one's motivation. Those things aren't necessarily bad. It just depends on one's motivation, one's spirituality, and one's motivation. I think that's a really important point so that people don't go crazy about these things. Okay. So now we're going to allow Vijay Radhika to chant or to read. And we're going to allow you to unmute yourself so you can read. Are you ready?
Can you hear me, Gurudev?
I can hear you fine. Whoops.
Pranam, Gurudev. Please accept my humble obeisances.
Is my blessing?
Kamera tatparya nija sambhoga kevala. Krishna sukha tatparya matra prema ta prabola. The object of lust is only the enjoyment of one's own senses. But love caters to the enjoyment of Lord Krishna, and thus it's very powerful. Loka dharma, Veda dharma, Deha dharma, Karma lajja, Dhairya, Deka shuka, Atma shuka marma, Dusyaja aryapata, Nija parijana, Swajana kareya yata tadana varsana, Sarvatyagakari kare, Krishnera bhajana, Krishna sukha hetu kare, Prema sevana.
Okay.
Social customs, scriptural injunctions, bodily demands, fruitive action, shyness, patience, bodily pleasures, self gratification, and the path of Varnashrama Dharma, which is difficult to give up. The gopis have forsaken all these along with their families and suffered their relatives' punishment and scolding, all for the sake of serving Lord Krishna. They render loving service to him for the sake of his enjoyment.
Well, so stop right here. Of course, this is pretty much what I talked about before. This is a description of the gopis, and they are the highest devotees. They've given up all these things, but it's in the same. They're giving up desire for any of these things, but it's not that they're against those things. We have to understand the position of a devotee is what we call a pure devotee, or the gopis, is nirapeksha. Nirapeksha means like neutral, not negative. Sometimes immature spiritualists misunderstand and think that one has to become negative towards these things, like negative towards social customs or bodily demands. Like let's say if I'm thirsty, It's not a spiritual fall down to say that and want to get some water. However, if Krishna is asking for water, then I will ignore that bodily demand and get him the water first. That's really the point. That's really the point. That the gopis are considering Krishna's enjoyment superior. They're not negative towards their own enjoyment. They're actually positive towards Krishna's enjoyment, and therefore they're detached, not negative, towards all those things. It's a very, very important point. Okay, continue. You can continue, Vijay.
Itahe kahiye Krishna drata anuraga swacha dauta vashre alche nahi kona daga. That is called firm attachment to Lord Krishna. It is spotlessly pure, like a clean cloth that has no stain. Purport. The author of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrta advises everyone to give up all engagements of sense gratification and, like the gopis, dovetail oneself entirely with the will of the Supreme Lord. This is the ultimate instruction of Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. We should be prepared to do anything and everything to please the Lord, even at the risk of violating the Vedic principles or ethical laws. That is the standard of love of Godhead. Such activities in pure love of Godhead are as spotless as a white linen that has been completely washed. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura warns us in this connection that we should not mistakenly think that the idea of giving up everything implies the renunciation of duties necessary in relation to the body and mind. Even such duties are not sense gratification if they are undertaken in a spirit of service to Krishna.
Okay, let me comment. That's exactly what I just was talking about. Bhaktivinoda Thakur just reiterated or corroborated, to be more precise. He's not reiterating, but corroborated what I said. That really the duties, relationship to the body and mind are not sense gratification. They're actually part of Krishna consciousness. Okay, next verse. Keep reading.
Ateva kama prema bahuta antara kama anda tama prema nirmala bhaskara. Therefore, lust and love are quite different. Lust is like dense darkness, but love is like the bright sun. Can I continue?
Yeah, continue.
Ateva gopi ganera nahi kama ganda Krishna sukha lagi matra Krishna se sambandha. Thus, there is not the slightest taint of lust in the gopis' love. Their relationship with Krishna is only for the sake of his enjoyment. Yatte sujata charanamburuham sthaneshu vitasanai priya dadimahi karkaseshu tena tavim atasi tad datate na kim swit kurpa dibir brahmati dir bhavat ayusham naha. O dearly beloved, your lotus feet are so soft that we place them gently on our breasts, fearing that your feet will be hurt. Our life rests only in you. Our minds, therefore, are filled with anxiety that your tender feet might be wounded by pebbles as you roam about on the forest path. Purport. This text from Srimad Bhagavatam 10.31.19 was spoken by the gopis when Krishna left him in the midst of the Rasalila.
Okay, stop. You can stop there. And I just want to say a few things about this. And let me just mute you. So we have to understand when Krishna was going out to herd the cows, he didn't wear shoes or anything on his feet. And he said to Mother Yashoda and the other devotees, when they asked him to wear something on his feet, he said, "Why should I wear anything on my feet? Because the cows are not wearing anything on their feet." So Krishna was just very, very, very simple coward boy in Braj. And you see the gopis' love for Krishna, they're just so much concerned, even though we understand because we are philosophical. But the gopis, it's not that the gopis are not philosophical, but their philosophical understanding is covered by their love. It's covered by their love of Krishna, which is so deep that they're very concerned with everything about Krishna. And they're ready to sacrifice and even go to hell to please Krishna. As that story goes about Krishna being cured with the dust of the feet of his devotees. And the gopis were willing to do that, and no other devotee was willing to do that because everybody understood if you give the dust of your feet to Krishna, then you go to Hell. Okay, so Pran Govinda. Pran Govinda, you can now unmute yourself.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All goes to Prabhupada.
Prabhupada. So you can continue reading.
Okay. Atma sukha dukhe gopi nahi ko bichara, Krishna sukha hetu kare savo vyavahara. The gopis do not care for their own pleasures or pains. All their physical and mental activities are directed towards offering enjoyment to Lord Krishna. Krishna lagi ara sava kari paritega, Krishna sukha hetu kare suddha anuraga. They renounced everything for Krishna. They have pure attachment to giving Krishna pleasure. Evam madartha chila lokave sanam hiva mayano brittayeva maya paroksham bhajata tirohitam masuitam marhatam tatpriyam priya. O my beloved gopis, you have renounced social customs, scriptural injunctions, and your relatives for my sake. I disappeared behind you only to increase your concentration upon me. Since I disappeared from your benefit, you should not be displeased with me. Purport. This text from Srimad Bhagavatam 10.32.21 was spoken by Lord Krishna when he returned to the arena of Rasa Lila. Krishnara patiggaye ache purva hoite, je joiche bhaje Krishna tare bhaje taiche. Lord Krishna has a promise from before to reciprocate with his devotees according to the way they worship him. Je jathamam prapaddante tangstataiva bhajamaham mama vartante manusyapartha sarvasaha. In whatever way my devotees surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respect, O son of Pritha. Purport. Krishna was never ungrateful to the gopis, for as he declared to Arjuna in this verse from the Bhagavad Gita 4.11, he reciprocates with his devotees in proportion to the transcendental loving service they render unto him. Everyone follows the path that leads towards him. But there are different degrees of progress on that path, and the Lord is realized in proportion to one's advancement. The path is one, but the progress in approaching the ultimate goal is different. And therefore, the proportion of realization of this goal, namely the absolute personality of Godhead, is also different. The gopis attained the highest goal, and Lord Chaitanya affirmed that there is no method of worshipping God higher than that followed by the gopis. 179. Se pratigya bhanga haila gopira bhajane tahate praman Krishna srimukha vachane. That promise has been broken by the worship of the gopis, as Lord Krishna himself admits. No parayaham nirabadha sangjujam sasadhu kritam vibudhaya shabye jama yama bhajana durjaya greha srinkhala sambrishcha tadva pratijatu sadhuna. O gopis, I am not able to repay my debt for your spotless service, even within a lifetime of Brahma. Your connection with me is beyond reproach. You have worshipped me, cutting off all domestic ties, which are difficult to break. Therefore, please let your own glorious deeds be your compensation. Purport. These words from Srimad Bhagavatam 10.32.22 was spoken by Sri Krishna himself when he returned to the gopis upon hearing their songs of separation. तबे से देखिए गोपी निज देहे प्रीत सेहत कृष्ण लागी जानी निश्चिता. Now, whatever affection we see the gopis show for their own bodies, know it for certain to be only for the sake of Lord Krishna. Purport. The selfish love of Godhead exhibited by the gopis cannot have any parallel. We should not, therefore, misunderstand the carefulness of the gopis in their personal decoration. The gopis dress themselves as beautifully as possible just to make Krishna happy by seeing them. They had no ulterior desires. They dedicated their bodies, everything they possessed, to the service of Sri Krishna, taking it for granted that their bodies were meant for his enjoyment. They dressed themselves with the understanding that Krishna would be happy by seeing and touching them. 182. এই দেহ কইল আমি কৃষ্ণ সমর্পণ তার ধন তার এই সম্ভোগ কারণ. The gopis think I have offered this body to Lord Krishna. He is its owner and it brings him enjoyment. এই দেহ দর্শন স্পর্শে কৃষ্ণ সন্তোষণ এই লাগি করে অঙ্গের মার্জন ভূষণ. Krishna finds joy in seeing and touching this body. It is for this reason that they cleanse and decorate their bodies. Nijangamapi jagopamameti samupasate tebha param name partha niguro prema bhajanam. O Arjuna, there are no greater receptacles of deep love for me than the gopis, who cleanse and decorate their bodies because they consider them mine. This verse is spoken by Lord Krishna in the Adi Purana.
Okay, you can you can end there, and we'll just comment and take some questions. So anyway, this is extremely elevated subject matters that cannot be imitated. As we see, most people in this world are decorating their bodies, or eating, or doing whatever for their own pleasure, whereas the gopis, everything they do, they're actually showing this verse in a practical form, the verse from the Bhagavad Gita. Yat karoshi yadasnasi yajdahoshi dadasi yatapashashi kamti yatat kurashwa madarpanam. They're actually, that verse describes them, even though it's in the Bhagavad Gita. Whatever you do, whatever you offer, whatever you give away should be done as an offering for Krishna or to Krishna. So that's pure devotional service. And we can only aspire to serve the gopis. We should all pray that somehow or other that we can become Gopi Bharta Pada Kamala Dasa Dasa Dasanu Dasa. I mean, servants of a servant of the Lord who maintains the gopis in Vrindavan. In other words, servants of the servants of the servants of the servants of the gopis of Vrindavan. So, very elevated subject matters. So now we're going to take some questions. Hold on a second. for those of you who understood every single thing going on here. So now you're all officially allowed to unmute yourselves. Okay. Who wants to ask a question? Rishikesh, you're first.
Yes, sir. Gurudev, how do we basically follow in the footsteps of gopis while we are conditioned, while I'm conditioned in this, I mean, to do everything for the pleasure of Krishna, because the conditioning nature is so, we tend to feel that I'm doing for Krishna, but actually internally I'm just, want to enjoy myself, like prasad or whatever, It doesn't just come genuinely. How do we?
Anyway, your business is of following footsteps of Lakshmi, not the gopis, so that's a little bit different. So that question you don't need to. Oh, it's anyway. Anyways, how do we follow in the footsteps of the gopis? We serve the servant of the servant of the servant of the gopis. And so, what are the gopis interested in doing? Let's think for a second. Yes, the gopis are female, and you and I, Rishikesh, in our present bodies or the material bodies, are not female. So there's a lot of stuff that we just can't really understand because of our present conditioning. But one thing we can understand about the gopis is their just desire to please Krishna. It's not that they're against sense gratification. Try to understand that. See, we have this understanding, like you talked about, you enjoy eating, and I also talked about enjoying eating. So if we start to think about these things in a negative way, we just become Mayavadis or impersonalists. Or guilty. We feel very guilty, oh my God, or hopeless. I mean, there's all sorts of stupid emotions that can arise in our mind if we think about these things negatively. Oh, I shouldn't be desiring to see the movies. Whatever movies you like to watch. The Bollywood movies. So what we should just be thinking is that we want to come to the point of simply pleasing Krishna. Forget about the negation of that stuff. I don't even think about it. It's just very depressing to think about it. Of course, we know the verse from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Anyabi Lashita Shunyam Gyana Kamrana Vritamanu Kuyena Krishnanu Shilanam Bhakti Rutamam, that pure devotional service is devoid of certain things like subtle or gross sense gratification. We know that. But it's better to concentrate on Anukulyena Krishnanu Bhakti Rutamam. And to do that, we think of pleasing Krishna's representatives. Or representative is Divine Grace of the Prabhupada and our spiritual master. And that's the gopis' mood. Like Prabhupada said one time when Ramaswara asked him about preaching Krishna consciousness, he said, well, is this the mood of the gopis? And Prabhupada said, yes, because what is Krishna's intense desire? Krishna's intense desire is that all of his parts and parcels, that is, us and others around this world, come back to him, connect with him again. And so that's the gopis' mood, to bring others, like Radharani, for example. Not just for example, I hate to say Radharani, for example. But Radharani is thinking of pushing other gopis forward, bringing other gopis. She becomes happy to see other gopis associated with Krishna. I understand that sometimes there's some pastimes when Lila is associating with Krishna because of Narada Muni's tricks that Radharani gets angry and goes into a huff and a puff. But that's a pastime. So what makes the gopis happy is bringing others to Krishna's lotus feet. And so if we concentrate on that, that's our mood, that's Lord Caitanya. So you can't separate Lord Chaitanya's exoteric purpose for appearance with his esoteric reason. They're both very much connected. You can't have one without the other. So if we're thinking about Lord Chaitanya's exoteric reason, spreading Sankirtan, for those who don't know what exoteric means, then automatically we become connected with the esoteric reason. So that's really the secret. That is the secret, an open secret. If one does their best using their talents to reach out to others and bring others to Krishna's service. I mean, we all have certain talents. Like for me, I was thinking about this today actually. One talent I have is, technology. So one may think, oh, technology's Maya. For some people, it may be. But I'm thinking I have to use it in Krishna's service to bring people to, and Krishna's fulfilled my desire, actually, because with this wonderful disease, COVID, Krishna has really blessed me immensely because it's allowed me to get more into technology than I ever have in my whole life. I'm thinking, wow, Krishna's just arranged COVID so I can enjoy my senses and be into technology and have all these cool gadgets around. So I can. So the point is, whatever talent you do have, and we all have different talents, we can all approach Krishna in different ways. I mean, for example, I have certain abilities. I can tell jokes, use my joke telling in Krishna service. But anyway, I have certain abilities to communicate Krishna consciousness, and I use that. Or if one doesn't have those abilities, one can assist those who have those abilities, like that. And that's the mood of the gopis, because Krishna is just hankering to get his parts and parcels back with him. And so that's really, so don't worry about, oh, I enjoyed eating prasadam. Unless you're getting sick, unless you're eating so much that, or the wrong thing, and you have heart disease and, high blood pressure or something like that, that's a different subject matter, because you got to take care of the body. The body belongs to Krishna. But we all need some enjoyment. And Prabhupada even indicated when the devotees tried to give him just boiled food, he said, let the starvation committee go to hell. So basically, don't worry about it. I don't worry about it. I don't worry at all about sense gratification. I just worry about pleasing Krishna. And then automatically the sense gratification is just not there. There's no time and no impetus and no taste for it. The taste, rasa varjam, rasa pyasha, param drasadi varjate. One gets a higher taste. So don't get depressed. Just concentrate on the positive, not the negative. I mean, there's too much negativity. And the more you concentrate on the negativity or the negative, the more you get attached to the negatives. If you think, oh, I am addicted to eating sweets, I have to give up sweets. I am not addicted to sweets. I mean, I have to be honest about it. But let's say you're thinking like that. I have to give up sweets. Oh, how can I give up sweets? I will never be able to give up sweets. Oh, no, how can I become Krishna conscious? Then you're going to start eating more and more and more sweets. I remember how I not gave up eating sweets, but how I made my diet simpler. First, I tried the negative way. Went to my Ayurvedic doctor. He's actually a very good doctor. He's probably one of the few bona fide Ayurvedic doctors. His name is Lila Gupta in Vrindavan. There's so many other cheaters who try to charge you an arm and a leg for a panchakarma, or for other things, and they try it. Anyway, I'm not going to get into it. I promise I won't get into it. Anyway, so he's very good. So I went to him, and he said, your problem, you must stop eating cheese. And I said, impossible. Because he was telling me a negative. You have to stop eating cheese. And I thought, oh, what a mean doctor he is. Can't you give me another prescription that's actually, like stop eating beets or something like that? And he said, no, you have to stop. You're just going to get sick. And I said, well, better to die happy. So based on the negative, I was unable to do anything. But then, after a while, without even thinking of the negative, because it took me longer because of the negative to give it up. Because we all have this need for autonomy, not to be told what to do. So after a while, what happened is that I realized that if I wanted to serve Krishna for a longer period of time, in other words, have a few more years left in this old, cranky old body, if I wanted to serve Krishna for a long period of time, I'd have to eat differently. Not stop something, but eat differently. And so I was thinking, how am I going to do that? And that night I had a dream, and anyway, not going to tell the whole story on the internet. And then the next morning, I just gave up something that I was addicted to, cheese. I was very addicted, paneer, as they say in India. Very addicted to it. And yet, a lot of devotees are addicted to it. I see people come to the Sunday feast, and if there's a sabji with paneer in it, they won't eat any of the vegetable sabji. They'll just pick out the pieces of the paneer, and for them, it's like taking a shot of heroin in the arm, like a fix, going to their local drug dealer. And so, it was almost like that with me. But then I saw, based on what Krishna wanted, then I just changed overnight. So that's the point. So we come to that realization, I just want to please Krishna. And if it pleases Krishna to have me eat dirt, I'll eat dirt. Okay, Krishna, you didn't hear that one. But anyway, if it we'll erase that one so Krishna won't watch it later on the internet. Because Krishna doesn't watch me live. He watches the replay. So, I mean, so really that's the point. It's love. It's bhakti yoga. That's the real point. If something's done out of love, you can do amazing things. I always give that example about one time there was a lady whose little child was stuck under her car, and this lady picked up the car. Can you imagine picking up a whole car and pulling her child out? I mean, I don't think you could do it. I think I certainly couldn't do it. But this lady did it because of love. And so when there's love, then you can move mountains. So, yeah, so then it's easy. It's Krishna consciousness is very easy. It's just love, Krishna, Prabhupada, whatever. And it's just like, wow. And, unfortunately, we're approaching it from the wrong direction. It's always like the negative. And that's going to be very depressing. Krishna consciousness is very positive. Okay, who else has a question? Thank you, Hrishikesh.
Maharaj, I have a question if nobody else.
Let's see if someone else, because you always ask all the questions. Anyone else have a question before we allow Pran Govinda? I guess Praneshwar hasn't been on in a long time. Well, I guess that's because he got married. It's just like there's a honeymoon period anyway. We'll wait about 6 months, and then he'll be on all the time. So, all right. So, Pran Govinda.
Okay, Maharaj.
Pran Govinda, you can ask
Maharaj, in the spiritual realm, all the relationship is very, very unique and complete.
Yes.
From the impartial point, I read one sloka in Caitanya Caritamrta that from impartial standpoint, each relationship with Krishna is complete and they are not looking not satisfied or disturbed like this.
Right,
So
right.
why Uddhava is hankering for Gopi's love? Is he really wants to have like he wants to be a gopi, or
No, 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 no,
why
no, no, no. He's hankering from the mood of the gopis, of unalloyed surrender to Krishna, ready to do anything for Krishna. He's hankering for the mercy of the gopis. That's why he takes birth as creepers and dirt or dust in Vrindavan, especially at there's a place called Uddhava Kund. Have you ever been there?
Yeah,
No,
kind of.
kind of.
I
Okay,
don't
kind of.
remember.
Uddhava Kund is at Govardhan. It's on the opposite side of the hill from Kushama Sarovara. And
Uh-huh.
that's where Uddhava resides. And there's beautiful deities there, Radha Uddhava Bihari, two sets of deities there. And the pujari there, his name is Giriraj, his father did 1,000 parikramas around Govardhan to get him as a son. And so it's a very special place. So Uddhava's there, anyway, little Govardhan parikrama. Uddhava's there residing as blades of grass because he wants to get the dust of the feet of the gopis because of their mood of devotion. It's not that Uddhava is not hankering to become a gopi. Not really. He's hankering to get their mood of devotion. See, generally we think, the mood of the devotion of the gopis is to be female or have a female body. But the mood of devotion of the gopis is just, Krishna, you can do anything. Crush me by your embrace, leave me broken heart. That's the mood of the gopis. That last line of the Shikshashtaka is actually a description of the mood of the gopis. Whatever you want, Krishna, you can do. And you'll always remain my worshipful Lord unconditionally. And that's what Uddhava is hankering for. Of course, he has that mood, but he's hankering for it too. So even if you have the mood, you're going to be hankering for the mood. I mean, that's the nature of it. And the gopis' love, as described yesterday in the verses, Radharani's love for Krishna is expanding unlimitedly as Krishna's glories and love for Radharani is expanding unlimitedly. So even all the other gopis are hankering in that same way. So this is like an ever increasing ocean of love, an ever increasing ocean of dedication. It's not that, oh, yeah, I'm 100% dedicated to Krishna, that's it, buddy or lady. But it just goes on unlimitedly, unlimitedly. Anandam buddhivardhanam, pratipadam, pranamritas vadanam, sarvatma snap. Anyway, so anandam buddhivardhanam. So you'll find the gopis in every verse of the Shikshashtaka. In every verse of the Shikshashtaka, you're going to find the gopis hidden if you study the Shikshashtaka nicely.
Mhm.
We should do a whole study on that. Okay. All right.
But
It's
Maharaj,
time to end.
should I
Yeah. Or
can
one
I
other
just
thing.
clarify in my mind? So should I also understand that Uddhava's position is very perfect, but he's always there is a room to grow or room
That's right.
to
There's always room
relish
to grow.
more.
Even for Radharani, there's unlimited room to grow. It's not that when we talk about room to grow, that doesn't mean someone's not It's just because spiritual love is like that. It increases exponentially at every moment. There's always room to grow, even for
Mhm.
Krishna.
Okay.
Krishna's glories are always increasing. It's not that Krishna's
Yeah.
hit a
Thank you.
brick wall, All right, I'm Krishna. I understand the love Radharani has for me. I understand the material world. Bring on something new. It's boring being Krishna. It's not Krishna's thinking like that. It's not. It's ever expanding. There's ever all surprise Krishna. I mean, if things weren't variegated, infinitely expanding, then even Krishna's life would get boring. I already know everything. I know past, present, future, but me, no one knows. This is pretty boring. So it'd be, it'd be, it would be, if you take a material conception of God, it's a boring life. It's a boring life to be God. Boring, and then everybody's asking you for things. That's the worst thing. Everybody's praying. Can you imagine everybody texting you every minute? Dear God, give me this. It's like being Santa Claus 365 days a year. And you don't even have Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer to help you out. Anyway,
There was a movie like that also.
I know there's so many movies. Okay, we got to end. All glories to divine grace to the Prabhupada. We'll see everybody tomorrow evening. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.